Hi, this is Sonoria. Going on with my story. I think it's part 48. So, the last couple of topics we've been talking about spiritual things, molestation, rapist, family, religion. So, the last one that I done was talking about how the Lord had blessed me and I was able to get ready for my trip because I'm going to India and then I'm going to South Africa. So I just want to let you guys know that it's possible. Anything is possible if you really decide that you want to do it. The thing is, a lot of us just have never left home. Um, but I had told you that in my other story, I wanted to talk to you because this is still about spiritual stuff. So previously, I spoke to you about my grandmother who had an encounter when she was younger and how my family actually came into understanding about voodoo and witchcraft. So I want to get into that because I feel like it plays a big and significant part to a lot of things that actually happen down the road in my life. So my grandmother, when she was a teenager, she was going, she had a boyfriend and she was going with him. And it turns out that another lady liked him because, he was very good looking. So this lady was her friend. Now, this is where I want to talk to people because people don't seem to think that things exist and no one can do anything. You have to believe in it. And I'm here to tell you that's not entirely true. Whether you believe in what I'm telling you or whether you believe that these things happen, they do happen and they don't need your approval or recognition. It's just there. So what happened was she tells me that this lady had made her a plate of food and brought it over. And so, back in the day, people would make certain dishes and plates or whatever, and they bring it over to your house. So this lady had came over, and she's a good friend of my grandmother's, and so she had brought her some greens and had some red onions and had some neck bones and some sweet potatoes and some black eyed peas and cornbread. Nice plate, nice food, everything. So my grandmother had ate it. Down the road, my grandmother started feeling sick, but she didn't know why she was getting sick. So my grandmother, my great grandmother, because this is my grandmother, but her mother, which was she was part Native American, but she knew some things about things. And so my grandmother didn't know about anything, but my great grandma knew about it. And she's Native American, so she was trying, when her daughter started complaining, she was saying, I think something is wrong. And so I'm going to take you somebody. Now, at the time, they were living in Wichita, Kansas. My grandmother had a station wagon, and her husband took my grandmother to a healer, a lady that lived in Texas. The journey was very long and it cost them a lot of money. So they had contacted this lady and told them. So the lady said, "Okay, you come on down here and we'll take a look and see what we can do." So my grandmother is in the car with her mom and dad, and they're on their way. In the process of going, they end up having a flat tire. So they had to stop, get that fixed, and whatever. They arrived at this lady's house. This lady lived way back in the woods, like, way, way back in the woods. And so it was my grandmother was a little scared or whatever, but she's with her parents, so she wasn't, she didn't know, but they told her, "We're going to take you here," because her skin was getting like a rash. Her hair was starting to fall out and all this other stuff. So she didn't know. So, but her mom had an idea, but she didn't know what to do about it. So she's taking her to a healer. So she takes her to this woman's house. This lady has a sister who also lives in there, and they live in this old broken down looking shack. Didn't even look like anybody would have been living there. And my grandmother said they reminded her of witches because the way they looked and what the house looked like, and she was scared. And so the lady told her, "Don't be scared." And then she asked my grandmother, "How was your trip? I see y'all had a flat tire." Yeah, that happens sometimes. So my grandmother was freaked out about that because how did this lady know they had a flat tire and whatever? So she knew that's what took them a little bit longer to get there. So long story short, my grandmother and the lady were talking, and the lady asked my grandmother, "Is her stomach hurting and this and that?" And she was like, "No." And she said, "Yeah." She said, "Oh, what you want you to do?" Sugar is you go up there and you go get that pail over there, and it was like a silver bucket, like something you would feed cows or chickens or something with, silver uh, pail. And she said she went and got it, and she said that the lady told her, "Now I want you to pee in that." And so back in that day, a lady ain't supposed to just do no stuff like that. That's just not something that's normal. And so she was like, "No," and her mom was like, "No," and she's like, "I don't have to pee." And she said, "Oh yeah, you do." And so she said, "I won't look. We'll turn around. Everybody turn around, and I want you to push as hard as you can." And so she said that it's her mom told her, "You need to pee. Do what she's telling you to do. We came a long way. You need to do whatever she's telling you need to do." So she decides to try, and they turned their backs on her, and she lifted up her dress, and she was standing over this bucket, and she said that was odd because she's never peed in a bucket before. But this is way, way, way back when. So anyway, long story short, she's peeing, and then she's done peeing. And so the lady told her, said, "Are you done?" And she said, "Yeah." And then the lady told her, "What do you see?" She said, "It's just pee. It's a ball in there." So the lady said, "Yeah, yeah, that's what I thought." So she said, "Bring me the bucket." So my grandmother takes the lady the bucket. So the lady's looking at it, and she told her, she said, "Sugar, you go over there and I want you to grab one of those trees and break off a limb off of it and bring it back. I want you to bust that ball open." My grandma was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And she was like, it just looked like, to her, it was about the size of a golf ball. Or we used to play jacks, jacks, and had a ball and had some jacks. It was a small ball, like, excuse me, like that, but it was black. It was all black. And she said, "I don't want to play with pee." And so they said, "No, you're not going to play with the pee, but I want you to see what that ball is. I want you to get that ball, and I want you to hit that ball and keep hitting that ball until you break it open." And she said, "I can't break open a ball. It's too hard." The lady told her, "Keep trying, keep trying." So my grandmother and the lady were talking, and they had told her to go over there, by the tree, and to keep on and keep on. So they were discussing everything while she was over there. So she went over there, and she was standing out there, and finally, she got it busted open, and it turned out it was a bunch of black snakes, little bitty snakes. This is a true story. So she's like, "It's a bunch of snakes." And she started screaming. And the sister, not the lady that was talking to her, but her sister, went out and got the bucket and brought it and put it in this hole that had already been dug, put it in the hole, poured the snakes in there, and they added some kerosene on it and caught it on fire. So the lady told her, she said, "You have a friend of yours." She said, "You want me to tell you how you got them?" And she said, "Yeah." She said, "I didn't know." She said, "That was what was inside of you." And she said, "Someone gave that to you. You want me to tell you who?" And so my grandmother said, she told her, "Yeah, I don't know. Nobody gave it to me. I didn't eat nothing. Nobody gave me no balls or nothing." And she said, "No." She said, "It was a lady that gave you a plate of food." And she told her exactly what she had on that plate, and said, "The lady that gave that to you, she put a curse on you. And that's what it's for. She wants your husband. She wants your boyfriend." And so my grandmother was like, "Well, she could have just had him. She didn't have to do that to me. And my hair's been falling out and my skin is all messed up." So the lady said, "Let me tell you something. Now I'm going to tell you this, and I want you to remember it. Whatever you do, I know you're upset because she did this to you. Whatever you do not go and try to repay her. Because if you try to repay her, the curse could backfire and it could hurt you. Because this lady has been doing part of this voodoo and witchcraft stuff for a while, and you don't know anything about it." So my grandmother's like, "Okay." My grandmother says she left there. When they got to the hometown, got back to Kansas, she went and started looking up books and stuff to find how to put on spells, because she wanted to do it back to this lady. So when I said in my previous stories how I would talk to you about my grandmother and how she knew about it, is because it happened to her. And then instead of her just leaving it alone, letting it go, she went and started trying to get into the books, learning the occult, learning what to do, how to put spells. Now, as they were growing up, my mom and her two sisters also had seen this book, and my grandmother was telling them don't mess with the book or whatever, but they knew it was a spell book. So occasionally the girls would open up the book and try to do spells and practice these things to try to make stuff happen to certain people around them. So you got to be really careful about what you bring into your home and things that your children have access to. So I wanted to know, I asked my grandmother, why didn't you just get rid of the book? Why did you keep that around? Because then you opened up a portal, and now my mom and her sisters are messing around with stuff too. And she said she tried to keep it hidden in a way, but somehow every now and again the girls would get it and they would try to do stuff or whatever. And I said, you shouldn't have been messing with that stuff because God don't like that. So I told you, even as a young girl, I've always been about whatever God wants and what I think is negative stuff and energy, and that we're not supposed to be messing with certain things. And my grandmother used to tell me, said, listen, don't think because you don't think that it'll happen, it can happen to anybody. And that's why you have to be careful and you don't just eat anything. And if you're a woman, she said, and another woman offers you spaghetti, she said, you don't take it. She said, never eat another woman's spaghetti, and especially if they still having periods. My grandmother said there's an issue of blood that a woman can use your period, your bloodline to make a spell on you to make you ugly, to make your hair fall out, to make the man desire them, to love them, and they don't know why they still in love with them, why they want to be with them. And so blood is a very, very important thing. Also, she told me about hair. She said when you get through combing your hair, you to burn it up or flush it. You're not to leave it where other people can get your hair. Always clean out your brush and your combs. Don't ever leave hair, because people can also use your hair to cast spells upon you. Also, she included that there's also a way of using your portrait and your name to show a picture of you and put that in the dirt and do something. I told her I don't really want to know any of that. I mean, I'm glad she's telling me so I can know what to look out for, but it's nothing that I ever want to practice or be a part of. And that's in the name of Jesus. I don't want nothing to do with anything like that. So I'm just telling you guys so you can be aware that there's a possibility that you could be attacked or this can happen to you without you even knowing it. And if so, then you have to go and find someone to help you to get the spell off of you. So I just wanted to put that in there. So this is my story, and this is about spiritual awareness and as far as voodoo and witchcraft. Okay? All right, thanks. Now I'll continue my story. All right, bye-bye.